Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of What If the Autobots created their own Predacon. So without further ado, let's get right to it. So we start this part off as the Autobots, Optimus Prime and Liberator, all finally return back to the Autobot base after a long time of driving or flying. And then the humans just also happen to arrive there. And they're like, guys, what are you doing? And when the Autobots describe to them that Ratchet wasn't answering his comms, they open the base. Optimus quickly examines and just says, where's Ratchet? Even the humans describe that they don't know, they just got here. And then the Autobots begin looking around the hangar, even going outside to try to see if Ratchet's around. But Liberator thinks for a moment, and then he transforms. And in his Predacon form, he begins to analyze his surroundings. Smokescreen's like, whoa Liberator, chill, now is not the time to be goofing off. And Optimus says, Smokescreen, hold on, I think he's onto something. And then his eyes go towards Soundwave's body. And then he screeches and transforms back to robot mode. I believe he was the cause of Ratchet's disappearance. And then the other four look at each other like, what? He's dead, how? Liberator then explains that in his beast form, he looked in the Soundwave's eye, similar to how in canon where Predacon looked into the eye of a dead Predacon fossil and was able to access its memories and mind on his ancestors. And although this Soundwave is deceased, he was able to look into his eyes and notice that he still has a link to something, a warship. And the Autobots are shocked looking at each other, the Decepticon warship. And Optimus is even surprised at this. The Decepticons have Ratchet. It is currently unknown what they want him for, but one thing is for sure, we must go and save our old friend. Autobots, ready yourselves, for we will not just go rescue Ratchet, but end this war once and for all. And the Autobots begin equipping themselves with weapons from Ultra Magnus' ship. And then Optimus says, and this all wouldn't be possible if it weren't for our new ally and friend, Liberator. And then Liberator looks at Optimus and thinks on his fight of Predacon still. Cause even he knows that Predacon is on the wrong side. And he says, I only wish to rid this universe of evil and deception as much as you do, Optimus Prime. And we will, Liberator. On this very day, we shall accomplish that together, no matter the cost. No matter the cost, Optimus Prime. And then with the Autobots ready, Optimus Prime says, Autobots, roll out. And with information provided by Liberator, the Autobots ground bridge all together onto the top of the warship to commence, as they would call it, Operation Liberate. And we're gonna say that the Autobots arrive on the warship stealthily around the point where Ratchet is about to be taken to Predacon, so it's right after he completes the formula. And then all of a sudden on the comms, a Viacon comes over. Lord Megatron, the ship is under attack by the Autobots, but the warship is cloaked. How could they have found us? And then Megatron does have a suspicion, which he's on point honestly. The Autobots Predacon. And the warship shakes a little bit as the Autobots have broken in the warship. Ratchet uses all the distraction of the Decepticons to try to escape the room, but his path is blocked by Predacon. You are not going anywhere, Autobot. And then Predacon grabs him. There is no way I am allowing you to run to your Autobots just so you could unite with them and terminate us like you did my Predacon brethren. And then Ratchet's spark is slowly crushed. But the last thing he does is point at Megatron, to which Predacon does take note of this, and Ratchet dies. Megatron smiles at Ratchet's death and calls out to his Decepticons, defend the Omega Lock at all costs. This will be our last stand. And then RC leads Bumblebee, Bulkhead, and Smokescreen down to the Omega Lock to secure it. And Optimus and Liberator head to the warship's hallways, exterminating Viacons to find Ratchet and Megatron or Predacon if they can. And eventually all four cross paths with each other. Liberator and Predacon lock eyes with each other, and Megatron and Optimus look at each other. Megatron says, come to end this, I see, Prime. And Optimus is like, indeed, Megatron, but something else. Where is Ratchet? And then Megatron shows off Ratchet's body behind him somewhere. And then Knockout randomly walks up with a Dark Star Saber. Here you go, Lord Megatron. And Megatron grabs it and looks to Knockout, shooing him away. Go do your job. And then Knockout takes a look at the Autobot Predacon. Understood, my lord, and then he goes off. To which Liberator charges at Megatron, and Optimus charges at Predacon. And all of the four, amidst their fights with each other, they break out of the walls of the warship and fly mid into the space area around the warship. And all of them are using their flight capabilities to keep up with one another. Megatron mid-flight uses his Starsaber to swing at Liberator, but Liberator dodges it, causing it to hit Optimus, but he lands on the warship. And then Smokescreen walks up behind him with a little something. Hey Optimus, need this? And Optimus grabs it. Thank you, Smokescreen. This will most certainly do. And then we see Predacon as he charges Liberator, and the two begin fighting in their beast forms mid-flight in space, with both Predacons literally scratching at each other and breathing fire at each other, tail whacking each other. But the thing is, Liberator is taking it a little less easier on Predacon than he is to Liberator, because he knows Predacon is being deceived this whole time by Megatron. And then we see Shockwave as he opens up the Omega Lock. Optimus surprises him at the entrance to try to shoot and kill him, but Megatron comes out of nowhere, tackling him, taking him down to the Omega Lock. And then Megatron orders Shockwave to commence Omega Lock firing sequence. And meanwhile, Vehicons guarding Shockwave are surprised when a ground bridge opens with Jack and Miko with the Apex armor coming through, because the other Autobots are sort of held up outside the room dealing with the army. And then Shockwave is sort of distracted by the humans. And then Megatron is like, observe, Prime, as this planet will fall to my hands, and the rest of your fellow Autobots will die. And then rage builds within Optimus. No, you will never harm this planet again, nor this universe. And then he knocks Megatron down to the ground. But Megatron isn't gonna go down that easily. And as Optimus walks towards him, ready to shoot him to kill him once and for all determined, Megatron swings the Dark Starsaber at him, sort of knocking him off the warship. And then he gets up, walks towards him. You are just as weak as all your fellow Autobots, Prime. Magnus, Wheeljack, and Ratchet, prepare to join them. Then he pulls up the Dark Starsaber ready to kill Optimus. Liberator then very quickly whacks Predacon into the warship. And then he flies down very quickly and grabs the Starsaber wherever it is. And he is the one to stab Megatron. Negative, Megatron. You will be the one to join the Allspark on this day, not Optimus Prime. And he does try to wave up the Dark Starsaber like in canon, but it falls. And his spark ultimately goes out. And then Liberator helps Optimus up. Miko tries to keep Shockwave pinned, but Shockwave shoots his weapon at Miko, but she's still wearing the Apex armor, so she just stumbles back a lot, and Shockwave is able to get away. And we're gonna say Knockout is the one who escapes with Shockwave instead of Starscream. And Starscream is taken prisoner. And then it's done. The Autobots have won the war, basically. To which the Autobots take the Nemesis warship back to Cybertron and use the Omega Lock to restore Cybertron. And Optimus and the Autobots do return to Earth to say farewell to their human friends. And Liberator does say a quick goodbye, and he's the first one to return before the others do to the warship. So he space bridges over to Cybertron and is on the Nemesis watching as it's restored. And meanwhile, outside of the warship, Predacon climbs up the warship after his battle against Liberator and the fall of Megatron. Knowing that the Autobot oppressors have won, he feels as if all hope is lost, until he sees the sun rise over Cybertron once again, and he realizes that this is the mark of a new beginning. And so he transforms to his Predacon form and flies towards the sunrise. And as he flies away from the Nemesis warship's brig, Liberator watches him, and all he says is, Predacon. And that's where I'm going to leave it off here, everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed part 2, and I'll see you guys in part 3, aka the finale. See you guys then.